Now I have spoken to the media, I have not communicated. And for the time being, this is a win-win situation. The person who came to take my bite has made his day. His boss would be happy that there is a bite which is going to run. And I am happy that I am going to see my face whole day. No one else is bothered to see my face. But at least I will be seen. But if I had communicated, if I had learned the nuances of communication, then I would have told the boys कि बेटा वो ज़माना गया यहीं पर जम्मू कश्मीर में हमने देखा सिगरेट की डिब्बी पर लिखकर नौकरी थी. And I tell you, I was here on a visit to Jammu. A boy came and fell at my feet. I asked, what is this खाते? कि भाई अगर इसी तरह धरने बैठोगे तो अगली बार भी रिटर्न में आपको दिक्कत आएगी. कोई किसी की मदद नहीं कर पाएगा इसमें. It's all written and that too on the computer modem it is going. Or you try other modes of livelihood which are in plenty now. We have startup movement in this country. Already we have 90,000 startups employing 9 lakh people. We have 108 unicorns, out of whom 36 unicorns are led by 1 or 2 women, co-founder or founder. It's a huge, much more. हमने वो नहीं समझाया, हमने आसान काम ढूंढा, हमने आश्वासन दिया, ये जानते हुए कि मैंने अपने आप से भी झूठ बोला इस बच्चे से. That is where I think you have to step in. Because requirement unfulfilled because of professional constraints. Secondly, पुराने ज़माने में, and then of course the op-ed page or the editorial page has the privilege to follow the line that has been following. And that would keep the report at least saved from being affected by any kind of bias. Now that also does not necessarily, because I have, ऐसा है कि I never went to a mass communication school. और ये क्या होता है कि जब आदमी फॉर्मल पढ़ाई नहीं करता तो ज्यादा पढ़ लेता है सेल्फ एजुकेशन में. My formal education in English language was hardly class 11. I read all the Tagore and all R.K. and all. Then to write at least to an extent that it was readable. So communication may be, these are small things which are not understood, which are not explained, is a skill. So there have been also reporters who would give a tilt to the intro, to the caption, in the fashion that it becomes attractive. Now I'll give you an example for that. Somewhere in the first half of the 20th century, the then Pope from Rome was on his first visit to Paris. And it made a big news. So when he arrived at Paris, some representatives from the church went to receive him. They were accompanying him down to the destination. Some of the newspaper reporters also following him because that was the print media time. And these escorts who were accompanying him, from stop to stop or from place to place, they would tell him, Father, this is the colony where the railway officials live. Then they would go to another spot. In the course of the driving, would say, Father, this is the most popular market of Paris. And Father, this is where the government officials of the ministry live, whatever, etc., etc. So while passing through one spot, one of the escorts says, Father, this is the area which is known as red light area, because a number of sex workers live here. So the father spontaneously asks, oh, what do you believe? How many sex workers should be living in Paris? And the smart reporter frames the news, which gets printed in next day's newspaper with the following headline: Pope arrives in Rome, comma, inquires about sex workers. Now, factually and technically, this is not wrong. Also, the boy is not carrying any bias. There might be some issues of ethics, which I am not going into it. But the problem arises when the reporter becomes an activist and starts carrying the bias. And therefore, and this is more, I think the risk has got multiplied after we entered into this era of electronic channel. The morning meeting is decided at 9 o'clock we have to have this debate. And these boys are pushed into the field. Go and collect bytes to tell the story by 9 o'clock. So they are under tremendous pressure. Because the debate has to happen, their slot is already earmarked. And we saw this happening even in COVID times. But now when there is no issue, to build up an issue, both the person working in the field is under pressure and the bias is manufactured and the news gets manufactured. In the process, they learn to have some kind of a political leaning as well, as Dr. Pathak was saying. Sometimes it happens over a period of time. Because we have again forgotten to demarcate between a genuine political leaning or a genuine ideological leaning to which every individual is entitled. Even if he is a journalist, even if he is an unbiased media person or a communicator, he has his right to decide which ideology he subscribes to. But that is different. And the example is that of Hindustan Times when the earlier Birla, Ghanshyam Das Birla was running it. He was virtually supporting all the activities of Gandhi, but never nursing the ambition to become a minister or an MP. So the problem arises, A, when the reporter becomes activist, B, when the management starts exerting pressure on him. There has been a long debate in this country right from the times of independence. How to ensure the independence of the editorial and the management staff from the proprietor. And in the 70s, it was pushed a little harder. And then, of course, the emergency came and everything got scattered away. And therefore, as I said, the genuine political leaning is entitlement of everybody. But to have it with a motive is what causes the problem. But therein comes the modern means which Arun Joshi was referring to and Modi. Today we have such technology that you can do independent of them. For many years now, I have not run after any of the media channels. यहाँ पर ये भी कहते हैं बाइट ही नहीं देते. अरुण जी, दिनेश जी would bail me out. इतने सारे पोर्टल हो गए, किसको देना? लेकिन I am doing well for myself without that, because I was lucky to learn in the early stages how to create my own ecosystem. And I think the first cue, I must admit, came from none less than Modi ji when he was the chief minister. Since we were close observers, I could see the entire media was against him. Mainstream media always writing against. English media writing against. Godra, Bodra, nothing of that sort. Yet transformed Gujarat overnight. First time I went to Gujarat for a seminar in IIM in 1996. And then I went later when he was the chief minister. I was amazed. The first ever state to have 24-hour rural electrification. हमारे यहाँ 12 घंटे का, but this was not being reported. Even the local Doordarshan was under pressure from the center not to report. And he was the first to develop these social media options. to carry to the people what he was doing. And he made a success story out of this, which is now a case story. And he also taught us how to fight an election successfully. Then I realized that we have so much technology on ourselves. आप लोग भी क्या करते हैं, जाके YouTube पे चढ़ा देते हैं, Facebook पे लाइव कर देते हैं. मैं खुद भी तो कर सकता हूँ वही सब कुछ. Twitter तो मैं खुद भी कर सकता हूँ. Only I should have the proper kind of व्यवस्था, skill, and a team. And therefore, 2-3, because we are talking of communication now, not of media. The first, again I'll give you the example from Jammu itself. The first ever railway bridge, highest in my constituency, Riyasi. It began about 8 years back, after a lot of effort. I was going around beating the drum, nobody was interested. Suddenly one day I happened to come across a lady from the Delhi bureau of one of the French newspapers. So I asked her, as he said, the satire is in blood. So I said, I believe your country has the tallest monument of the world. She said, of course, Eiffel Tower. I said, do you know, in my constituency, there's a monument which is going to be 35 meters higher than the Eiffel Tower. She looked back. I said, what is that? I said, if you could give me 2 persons, I am going there tomorrow. I'll tell you. She obliged. We got a small documentary. Only after that was circulated, it took us about 3-4 years till the local media also started reporting it. Now, of course, it's become a fashion to report it. Similarly, the other experiment which we did, in-house. So we have in-house means of communication. Technology is so advanced now, so advanced, and so instant. By the time a TV channel reports, I would have done my own reporting much faster and in my own way. Second is the purple revolution, lavender. Even now, media is not very much interested because they're interested. Okay, I'll make instant news if I abuse one of the leaders here. So instantly it will be on the news and then they'll go to him. कि आपको उसने गाली दी और इससे आपको कैसा लग रहा है गाली सुन के और आपने बदले में क्या गाली दे दी. But lavender doesn't make news. So we cultivated our own mechanism. We got a small 2 minutes video which is there on Twitter handle, even my Twitter handle you can approach, you can see. A beautiful lavender song written in the lyrics of the local, by a local poet in Bhadravai. Local music from the folklore of Bhadravai, sung in the fields of lavender. बिल्कुल वैसा सीन रिक्रिएट हो गया जैसा देखा है ख्वाब तो ये सिलसिले हुए. ट्यूलिप में जैसे अमिताभ बच्चन दिखाने गाया. आप देखिए उस गीत को. इट्स बिकम हिट. हमने बिना, एंड बिकॉज द मीडिया वाज नॉट इंटरेस्टेड, उनको लगा इसमें लेवेंडर में क्या निकला. बट देयर योर रोल कम्स बिकॉज 25,000 boys and girls have already got livelihood through that by now, and they are rolling in lakhs. A small bottle of lavender perfume is selling in the market for 15,000, much more than government job. Now this is the communication. This is the virtue of communication. This is the duty of the communicators. What I am saying is that we now can cultivate and create our own ecosystems. Those who are trying to destroy the society or doing the negative acts are already doing it. But we can do it for the positive reasons as well. And my fourth example is very personal. In the 2019 election, because election time, the communication of the media goes with there. Many of the local channels get affected. I will not use any other word. Affected for whatever reasons. So there was a huge campaign against us, against the constituency that I represent and the candidate representing there, that they are going to lose this seat. And one of the channels here who believe that they are the kingmakers and king destroyers also went to the extent of defeating me with a margin of 30,000 and declared another candidate as the winner. So much so that I started receiving calls from Delhi. My boys got a little panicky. They said, now, shall we call them? I said, if you call them, they'll blackmail you all the more. Okay, usne itna diya to usse zyada diya. So we created our own vyavastha. We spread our boys across the constituency. We launched a campaign, hashtag selfie with development. They would go by the side of a new medical college constructed during this tenure of the member parliament, get a photograph, get a video. Then go to a bridge, Kinia Gadayal Bridge, Atal Setu Bridge. They'll go to Mukherjee, the first ever road project, tunnel project named after Sama Prasad Mukherjee, longest in Asia. Somebody would drive down a bridge, take a video, put hashtag. So that hashtag selfie with development became a hit. We didn't succumb to the blackmail of any local portal. We created our own portal. And the result was that seat was won by a record margin of 3,58,000, highest ever in any Lok Sabha election in Jammu and Kashmir after independence. So what I'm trying to assert is the magic of communication, because the technology has given us so much of leverage, and therefore it is at these times when others are still getting used to it, communication of government and government, between government and people. More so in the times when someone like Prime Minister Modi is heading the dispensation. Because he has actually initiated some of those areas which were never in news. As I mentioned, Swachhata was never in news. So the conventional media takes some time to adapt to it. He has initiated A, the foundational areas, B, the unexplored areas. Like for example, from the ramparts of Red Fort, he says Startup India, Startup India in 2015. Many people don't understand what is it. And for the next 6 months or 7 months, nobody could actually make out what it's all about. Only till they realized that from 350 startups, we had gone over to more than 90,000. And now it started making news. That too not much, at least in this part of the country, it's still an alien world. Similarly, twice he spoke about deep sea mission. In his Independence Day address of 2021, in his Independence Day of 2022, hardly reported in any conventional media because they couldn't get what it is. There is where your role structure. Deep sea mission, the blue economy, which for the first time any Prime Minister has pointed out, unexplored ocean resources. We have a coastal area 7,500 kilometers long, longer than any other country of the world. We have an ocean named Indian Ocean. Australia is a continent, is an island, is a country, but the ocean is not named Australian Ocean. Because my forefathers knew there's a huge wealth lying inside. And when we say tomorrow we'll be a world economy, how would it be? It will be on the basis of the value addition of minerals, metals, living, non-living resources which remain unexplored. That and the Himalayan resources. जिसमें आपका lavender आ गया होगा. Now when we talk of communication of the government and the public in the context of publication, this is what has, because that is important also to make it arrive to the stakeholder. Let those who are going to avail of it know about what it is all about. How would they otherwise know? Similarly, since I am dealing with 6-7 departments, I'll just give you a very small example. Department of Pensions. Some of the reforms, and I say most of the governance reforms in this during this regime, Prime Minister Modi, as I think Professor, you were referring to governance reforms as well, is not only governance reforms related to administration per se, they are actually huge socio-economic reforms. Like for example, pensions. I don't know how many of you know, a divorced daughter was not entitled to family pension of her parent. We did away with that rule. And nobody reported it. In the national papers, I think only Times of India was one paper reported. Over here, I think Daily Excelsior reported. Others didn't find it very important. It is here where you have to come in. See, we had done such a huge, otherwise, A divorced or separated daughter had to wait for a judgment from a court. Now in these days, when even the VVIPs don't get a court judgment for 25 years, they get tired. They keep pleading in the court, I want to remarry. Still they don't get it. So we have done a huge reform. Similarly, in the context of Jammu and Kashmir, more important, when we are standing on the platform of Jammu and Kashmir, you had a rule, I'm not sure how many in this room are aware. If an employee goes missing, which is not uncommon in Kashmir Valley, sometimes he's kidnapped, sometimes he's killed, sometimes he runs away, sometimes he's taken away across the world. If the employee goes missing, his family would not receive pension. Unless one of the two conditions filled. A, that his dead body is recovered. Or 7 years have passed. So I thought this was quite relevant to Jammu Kashmir, to the leftist affected areas, to Northeast. We did away with that. Because those 7 years are more crucial for the family and you are depriving them. The question was, what if he comes back? If he comes back, we have means to adjust it in his salary. Nowhere reported. At least this information should have gone to those families who have their missing employees in the family. Number of them in Kashmir Valley. Who would do that? TV channel would not do that, newspaper would do that. So PRSI also doesn't do that, who else? So I think this is, first of all, let us all do a very serious study and understand what is going to be the spectrum. We have a huge role to play. We have to fill in a large space which is not being willingly or unwillingly taken up by the others. Similarly, Northeast. Now everybody is singing the song of Northeast. But when we went to Northeast in 2014, there were at least 3 states which had not seen a train. Meghalaya, Arunachal. Now you have an airport everywhere. Now it's the relevant model is being cited everywhere. But the media was always fond of reporting that a boy comes there, he feels embarrassed because of the features. Mrs. Majumdar is laughing, she would wear me out what it was before 2014 and what is now. When you landed in Guwahati, the demand was that we want more helicopter sorties to go to Shillong. Now nobody wants to take a helicopter, such a beautiful road. Boys and girls are now coming out and being ramped up in the aviation industry, in the hotel industry. Now if we do not communicate this to the society there, who else would? And then, before I end, let me also conclude. Communication is not only also about information. Communication is also not about news dispensation. Communication is also not only about carrying the government programs to the people. Communication today has assumed also a huge role in education and career building. And I'll give you a small example of that too. Actually, I'm a man of anecdotes, so what to do? About 4 years back, we had a small girl from Sopur. She had qualified IIT through IIT JEE. A small little bubbly girl. So I asked her, I said, you live in a place where you don't have any coaching centers, there are encounters outside, how do you prepare? So she quickly took out this gadget from her pocket, showed me. Sir, 8 घंटे रोज 8 महीने और 24 घंटे इसमें सब कुछ. So she had prepared from a mobile. So this mobile is your textbook now, it's your library now. People are qualifying civil services, qualifying IIT JEE, qualifying NET, and now this Modi government has also provided Wi-Fi at the railway stations of people where they don't have the internet connection, they go to the railway station to prepare. So it's also communication for education, communication that too we will have to carry to the people under the new education policy, the NEP 2020, what is it that we all have to offer. So, and I think we have a very ambitious and a tempting goal also. We could change actually the prioritization of the media reporting also, if we are effective. Like, for example, in COVID, what was happening? All the electronic channels were talking only about COVID from morning to night. In contrast to what was the Western media doing. They just had a news bulletin and COVID was one of the news. यहाँ नौबत ये आ गई कि पैनल में लाने के लिए लोग नहीं बचे. Many of my students started going. भाई कहाँ से हमारे रेजिडेंट जाने लगे दोस्तों, because they said that the TV management is not able to find enough doctors, so now they are carrying whoever is available. Here we can prioritize. Here we can give them the other part of it also. And also prioritization of the subject rather than individual. Very early, I made a principle for myself. I hope I will stick on for the rest of my life also. कि विषय पर बात करो, व्यक्ति पर बात करो. I have not till now abused anybody. Thank God. I hope I will not. And just because a mic, second dictum, just because a mic is placed before you, does not mean that you necessarily have to speak. हमें लगता है कि नहीं बोले तो हमारी नालायकी हो जाएगी. वो देखो हमारे पुराने मित्र बैठे हैं, यही गिला रहता है कि आप बोलते नहीं. तो कहता है कि कहने को बहुत कुछ था, अगर कहने पर आते तो कुछ कहने पर तूफान उठा देती है दुनिया. तो जिस कहने से तो दुनिया में तूफान आ जाए, वो ना ही कहना बेहतर है. Here the organizations, as Dr. Pathak very appreciatively said, they have no vested interest. They have no political vision. They just want to live up to a cause. They can create a new kind of a culture. And therefore, the challenge now would be, because communication is emerging as an institution, to place the institution above the individual. And if we falter even for a while, whether inadvertently or for any other vested reason, we might have done some good for ourselves, though very temporarily, but we would have left lasting wounds for the next generation. And now the next 25